This is a quick workshop on how to do estate planning. Really, how much life insurance does an 85-year-old need? Now, when you're young, we have dime, but when you're older, how does that look like? So we're going to review this together. We're going to go through some basic estate planning slides. What does this look like? The when we're selling, we always want to go through different agreements to make sure we agree on values, then agree on a concept. For example, do we agree on a concept like life insurance? When we look at something like life insurance, does this make sense? Do they agree on the concept? And then the strategy could be term, permanent, different types of insurance. Product is like the actual name and the illustration. But they got to agree on the concept before we go to actual strategies and product. The concept's really just easy to bring up and say, hey, this is how it works. But I want to talk about that today. And I think if you jump to the product too quick, you get rejected very quickly. And the X curve is when you are younger, you typically have a lot of responsibility, but when you're older, you typically have a lot of money saved. And so when we look at this, we know early on dime works very well. And so dime is maybe 10 times your insurance needs, figuring out, hey, how much do you need? When you're older, we use something called restful. Now, restful is the idea that businesses can go bankrupt, but people cannot fail. If my family fails, it doesn't just get sold to someone else and recover. Like a failed business can be sold and recovered out, but a personal family, it cannot happen. So I got to make sure everything works out very well. Now, when we look at restful, family life is really cyclical. So what I mean by cyclical is when you start off at 0 to 20, you're a kid. Then you got your first car, first marriage, first house, first job, first everything. Then from 40 to 60, you're really building your future. And then from 60 to 80, maybe we call it rest. And the most vulnerable time when we look at this is really from maybe 75 to 85, which you don't know when you're going to pass away, but it's when you're very old. And so how much do you want to leave behind when you're old? One of the criteria we look at is maybe a reset. And what I mean by a reset is I think a family doesn't need a lot of money when they are, I never prayed for, give me a lifetime of income, but a quality inheritance doesn't solve every problem, but it allows the remaining loved ones to reset their situation. With 300, 30,000 to 60,000, your kids can, maybe exit a toxic relationship, pay off debts, get married, maybe put a down payment on a home, renovate an older home, take care of their first 3 financial foundations, what that looks like of getting their insurance, investments, getting that all stuff in place. And so when we look at how much does a kid need of a reset, maybe 30,000, 60,000 usually can solve a lot of those problems, maybe 6 months to 1 year income. That if you have 2 kids and you give them 6 months income, they can typically reset their situation. Now, the second thing is an estate legacy. This is maybe 1 to 10 years income, where life insurance can be used for an estate creation, where maybe you want to leave a gift, but you have low net worth. Maybe your retirement pension income won't transfer to your children. Maybe you're involved with church, you want to leave a lump sum. Maybe after your financial foundation is completed, there's competition between legacy and lifestyle, so you want to spend some money and buy some insurance and leave a big inheritance. And then, a gift is not required, but it creates, we call dignity and pride, where I say, I want to give something, although my kids don't need it. That sometimes can be the best gift. This is something we look at, hey, if I pass away when I'm 85, my wife might have a widow's gap of, we say, 3 months to 1 year. For many widows, we notice a gap in cash flow. There is a lump sum to carry them over to create liquidity. So maybe they need to renovate the home to get ready to sell. Instead of a flipper earning all the profit, a lot of 85-year-olds haven't renovated their home in 20 years. Maybe cover 3 months of income while the pension transfers. because pensions might not transfer right away. Maybe they need a down payment on a new apartment or a new condo. Maybe moving costs. Maybe they're learning to pay bills for the first time. I've seen it where widows haven't, someone paid the bills, but it was the one that passed away. And so widow's gap is something that we spent a lot of time covering. And it's something that when you look at, hey, how much does an 85-year-old need? They have a lot of money, but maybe they want some of that money going to their kids and structuring how that looks. So sometimes look at widow's gap. The T here is tax. Now, taxes, it depends how your investments are structured, whether it's tax now, tax later, tax advantaged, and you choose how you're taxed based on how you structure your investments. If you own a lot of non-registered stuff, if you have money inside a corporation, if you own a cabin or rental properties, if you own real estate, are you capital costing it down to increase your future tax? So that's something that we can use insurance to cover, but how much tax is different for everybody. We want to look at maybe moving things to tax advantage programs while you're living to help avoid this. And then the last one here we have is, second last one we have is funeral. Now, making the same mistake twice. Knowing how much for a funeral, maybe 1 month income to 6 months income. A funeral is like a wedding. That's kind of how much it costs. Maybe 2,500 to 25,000. And you can prepay and you can get a discount maybe if you prepay, or you can buy life insurance. So if I put in, let's say I think my funeral will be 20,000. Maybe I could buy $1,000 of life insurance or 10,000 depending on the age I is when I buy it. When you look at the CPP and OAS, CPP gets a death benefit and it's up to 6 months of your payment maxed out at 2,500. And then we can also look at funeral concierge. We can do stuff with a prepaid funeral or prepaid insurance and looking at, hey, how does this work? Funerals are for-profit businesses. They're very highly compassionate, well-trained people. And the last one here is loss of income. That's what it says, loss of income. And if I move my face over, loss of income. The loss of income looks like this. Government pension is reduced when a spouse passes away. These are the facts. A surviving spouse is going to get a reduction in CPP by 40,000, roughly about $5,000 a year. The OAS is gone, so the surviving spouse doesn't get the OAS, roughly 8,000 a year. Personal pensions may be reduced by 40%. In Manitoba, there's a law that you got to give 60% of your pension to your spouse unless they sign off on it. So maybe of $13,000, a spouse outlives you by 5 to 10 years. So you got about 65 to 130,000 a government income that's lost. So when people say there's no loss of income when you're financially free, it doesn't matter if you have the income. If my car breaks down, if I have 12,000 saved and my car is worth 12,000, do I cancel my car insurance? No, because if my car gets stolen, I want my car replaced. Even though I have the money, I don't want to use my money for everything. So a loss of income, if my wife doesn't get my government benefits, there might be about 65 to 130,000 of loss of benefits that I want her to get. And so I want her to keep. I want maybe insurance to pay for that as opposed to my savings. So when you look at how much you might need in an estate plan to give your kids a reset, maybe 6 months to a year. Maybe you want to do a legacy and give a large lump sum. Maybe you have a widow's gap or a widower's gap where maybe 3 months to 1 year, depending on how much of a gap you think she's going to have based on your situation. I don't know what the tax looks like in your situation. And a funeral, I don't know how much you want to do a potluck in your backyard or you want to do something at the cathedral and maybe traveling. And then maybe there's a loss of income of maybe 1 to 3 years of loss of income. So when you look at how much money you might need when you're 85 when it comes to permanent life insurance, you might need 6 months of insurance or you might need 6 years of insurance. Depends on, hey, when you make a promise to a spouse, when I got married, I said, hey, till death do us part. But it actually should have been joint last to die. I should have told my wife, hey, I'll take care of you till you pass away, whether or not I pass away. My promise will extend past my passing to make sure she's taken care of. That's, I think that's a noble thing to do when you correct your promise. And then when I look at agreeing, hey, these are the values. Do I want to take care of my spouse after I pass away? Okay, what is the concept? What does this look like? And then I don't want to get too rejected, but early on, as a reminder, when you have a young family, you need a lot of insurance. But when you're older, you might need 6 months to 6 years of coverage. Helping people make decisions whether you need insurance when you're, 20, 30, 40, 50, when you get a lot of responsibility. I think 75-year-olds and 85-year-olds are actually a lot more responsible, and they recognize that responsibility, but they got to get the plans in place when they're younger. If this interests you, reach out to me and let's have a chat.